The lesson.
Oh, yeah.
Uberjak'd,
Hey, what's going on?
Adelaide resident.
Yeah, man. Adelaide boy.
Now, I didn't actually think that you were still living here because, man, I remember I was working HQ R&B room 2012, I reckon.
Yeah.
And that's when I first started catching your name because you were doing the main room.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure at that point in time, you were like the headline resident in the main room. I think that was 2012. And I mean, is it safe to say that around that time, shit sort of started, kicking into another gear?
Yeah, I mean, 2012 was kind of the year where I think things started to like pick up a bit with DJing. Like, I was making tunes and DJing a bit before that, but it was kind of, I think a few things sort of happened. I got like support from some bigger DJs with like Layback Luke and a few other guys who were sort of just playing my tunes in their DJ sets, really. And I was sort of in contact with them, which led to like release with an EP on Mix Mash, which was Layback Luke's label. And yeah, things just started to, happen in Adelaide. I got the chance to actually play on the main stage, which was at the time like crazy. I was one of those kids there, man, like 2 years ago, just on the D floor, just like looking up there, like at the lights, like, wow. And the fact that I got to DJ on there, I was, at the time, it still is, it's such a cool thing, man. The club, HU in Adelaide is like, it's a really, really good club. The fact that,
yeah, man. I mean, it wins awards and,
yeah, man.
credit awards.
It does. It's a good club. We've got a good team, a lot of good DJs there. So,
and then, so if that was 2012, I guess, prior to that, I mean, how did you get into the whole DJing thing? And then what actually led up to you, getting that residency at HQ?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll sort of wind it back a little bit. Maybe it was back in, when I was studying at uni, actually. I was studying to be an industrial designer. And I just like, music was a hobby, man. It was just like, I'd be doing my studying and then in my spare time, I'd like find tunes and put little mixes together and give them to my mates. And like, I wasn't getting booked for shows or anything, but it was just kind of, I just did it because I liked it, really. And back then, being a DJ yourself, that was like, back then it wasn't sort of like common for everyone to want to be a DJ. So it was kind of just this thing I did for fun. And I met a dude, he was pretty, at the time, he was one of the guys that was playing the main stage, a guy called DJ Armac.
Oh, wow, yeah. I remember hearing his name a lot, man, on the radio. He was doing a shitload of stuff.
So, and he was actually in my course at uni. He was studying industrial design as well. So I got I got a chance to meet him. I was sort of that guy that was pestering, oh, yeah, by the way, so I'm like, I'm doing DJing as well. Do you reckon if there's a slot one night, you can fit me in? And it's like, he was usually like, yeah, brush it off, like, whatever. But he was a really good guy. And there was actually one night back at Cargo Bar, which is now closed down. Yeah. I think that the uni bought that and flattened it and turned it into something there. But yeah, there was this place called Cargo Bar, which is a little place, 200-300 people. And one night, one of the guys couldn't make it in. I think he was sick or something. So that was my first ever DJ set in a nightclub. That would have been like, what time? 2010, 2010-ish. So I was a couple of years into uni there. So I did that show. Pretty much it was cool. Messaged all my friends to come down. They're like, oh, I'm DJing. And that kind of was like, then nothing happened for like another, 2 years even. But I just kept on in the studio, working, getting my music to sound better, working on my production, working on my mixes, and just sort of grinding away. And then a little thing in Adelaide came up called the Sound Pond. I don't know if you ever had a show
on Rundle Street it used to be.
And I heard about this thing called the Sound Pond. I can't even remember how. And I got in touch with the guy that was running it, Adam Days, at the time. And actually, that's right. It wasn't Adam Days. I got in contact with it through these guys called Bollocks DJs, Tom Ganley and Andrew Dickinson. Yeah. And they were at the time kind of like, they were like the Adelaide boys DJ in every club. Like they were doing Red Square, they were doing HQ, Apple Bar, they were doing them all. And I was kind of like, they obviously, I'd been hounding them in their inbox, hey, play my tunes, guys. I'm making music, play my tunes. They obviously liked it. So they're like, come into the show, you can have a mix for like half an hour. So I came on their show, had a bit of a mix, like got to know them. They were cool guys, and I met Brad Lee as well through the Sound Pond. So I eventually got my own show on the Sound Pond, where I think for this about 6-month period where I was doing it's like a Tuesday night or something like that, and you're getting like 30 viewers, but just like getting in there and just playing some of my tunes, some weird. I think I was playing Dutch House at the time, like back in that early day. So I did that. That was sort of went on for a bit, and then eventually, it was actually Apple Bar. I think you used to play there as well.
Play the upstairs
Colin Coleman. He was the first guy to ever give me a go. In a club, gave me a residency at Apple on a Thursday, and this was sort of back when he was putting on parties, and like you would say these names now, and you're like, what, on a Thursday night in Adelaide? Like how?
Oh man, that shit was popping. I remember the first time I walked into that shit, I was just like, what the fuck?
I mean, one week would be Calvin Harris, then the next week like Layback Luke, then Anger Dimas, and then Hardwell. Like you think it's like those guys were playing in a little 600-person club in Adelaide. Like,
yeah, man,
it was crazy. But at the time, it was awesome. So I kind of got a chance in there. I was just doing like closed sets. I think after a while, as my following started to build up, he gave me a go, saying playing a bit earlier, and then I did. I think my first ever kind of like headline show was I did a back-to-back with Brad Lee, who was a DJ in the scene at the time. He was a really good guy. He helped me out a lot getting into the scene and stuff when I was first starting out, and yeah, that was sort of how my first residency came up, and from that, and then after that, being there, I think I was there for like 6 months. I think I got a position to play Red Square on a Friday, which I got fired from because I wasn't pulling a crowd. So then I was just back to the Thursday for a while. This is all I was studying at uni, so it was sort of just a bit of pocket money, It wasn't anything serious. It was sort of in my spare time making music, and then when I had a show like a Thursday night, I'd rock up to uni on Friday like hungover as. That was pretty much how it went down for a few years. And then eventually, it was Brendan who was running the Saturdays back in that period of time. I think we met. We crossed paths through the Red Square gig that I got fired from. And he was like, "Look, I'll get you down." And Bollocks were doing their thing in the garden, the beer garden there, and that was called. I think it was called the Bollocks DJ Beer Garden or something like that, the Bollocks Collective or something like that. And he's like, "Look, come down. You can do a closed set." And I was like, "Yeah, for sure. HQ, wow, like I'm in." And so I did that, and we ended up building up this little thing. There was 4 of us, and it was myself, the Bollocks guys, Paul, who's also known as Rubber Teeth.
Is that Paul Marshman?
No, Paul Marshman was main stage. This is Paul Cranenberg.
Okay.
And he's been in tons of projects. His latest one's Flash 89, doing house music, but he's done stuff. He used to have a duo with Motez, who most people might have heard of. He's doing all right at the moment. And we actually had a duo, me and Paul. We were called Thrash and Snatch, and we used to play at Earth Nightclub. This fits into a period sometime in between when I was talking about all that stuff before Sound Pond, I think. So that sort of came about. We had this Friday, it was a Saturday night thing, and we just promoted it. We got all our friends there, and it was just such a cool. To this day, it was probably my favorite gig, like week in, week out. It was just good fun, good crew, like, couple hundred people out in a beer garden just having a good time for a few hours every Saturday night. Yeah. That was kind of the vibe, and playing good music as well. And then, so after that, I did that for a few years, and things started to pick up behind the scenes there. My production was probably getting a bit better, and I was getting releases on actual labels and stuff like that. I had the EP with Layback Luke, starting to get some... I ended up signing on with Ministry of Sound at the time for touring around Oz, and that's when I started to play sort of outside Adelaide. So that was all sort of happening around 2013, 2014, and in between that, then that's sort of as things started to pick up. I think having the Ministry of Sound guys behind me to sort of push to get me to play on the main stage at HQ was sort of when that came about in that period of time. So
you were sort of traveling you know, doing gigs nationally through Ministry of Sound
Yeah.
before you actually hit main stage in your own hometown.
Yeah, man, as you do,
Yeah,
you know,
wow.
you always got to prove yourself before you, especially even more so in your hometown, I guess. But yeah, I mean that was a pretty. There's a lot of stuff I skimmed over there, and a lot of things that I sort of missed out. And one thing that I want to say is like get involved with Fresh happened along the period there. I had a few radio shows alongside with those guys I mentioned before, Rubber Teeth, Well Said. We had a hype radio show, which was like a brand or a label. It was more of a label / brand who we did a few parties, we were releasing music and stuff like that. And that was sort of, I think, kind of like what brought us all together with that Saturday that I was talking about before. It was kind of like almost like a little label party every night where we just kind of got in, had fun.
Because I think the
stuff,
radio show that you were doing on Fresh was on a Saturday night.
Yeah, we had a Saturday one for a while. There was a couple.
Yeah.
The first one was with Paul Cranenberg. I can't remember the name of it, but we had a show together and we were doing like just sort of like bassy sort of music and stuff like that. And then I think we both got too busy, and then we ended up having another one bring on board, which was with all four of us. And we did that up until the point when I moved to Sydney. And I think they continued it on for a while, but when I moved to Sydney, it was made it a little bit hard to come back and do the radio show every Saturday night. But yeah, that was like, brings us back to how it started. Was you weren't always from Adelaide, so yeah, I got up to that point, and then I moved to Sydney when I signed on with Ministry of Sound, and I lived there for 3 years.
So then, when you moved to, so what year was it that you moved to Sydney?
I think it was 2013, 2014. So that would be, I was there, about 2014, 2013, sometime in between there, because I was there for 3 years and moved back in 2016.
So you would have been, were you like a headline resident in the main room at HQ before you moved to Sydney?
Yes. Yeah, I did a few shows.
Yeah, it was sort of all around that same time.
Did about 2 or 3 shows. I remember my first show there was when I just signed on with Soapbox. That was how it sort of came about, because they're like, look, signed on, and I think I got a like promo movie made up, and that was the first time I played on the main stage in Adelaide, which was around the same period when I moved to Sydney. It all kind of happened quite quickly.
Around the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you've moved to Sydney, and so what was your reason behind moving to Sydney, and what was going on over there?
Yeah, I mean, Adelaide, I think it was just a combination of, wanted to give it a go. You know, I'd always, as a young kid, like been fascinated by the big city, because I grew up in a country town of 500 people. So it was just kind of like the adventure of it. And signing on with Ministry of Sound was kind of like, look, it'd be cool to be, you know, close to the action. Yeah. You know, like they just signed me on. I'm keen to obviously do this. So, you know, it was never meant to be a permanent thing. And that's why I'm back here now in Adelaide. But yeah, I made the move up there, just to be a bit closer to the action, you know, with them, and it was an exciting thing to go and, you know, live in Sydney.
Because that's where the industry is, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's definitely a lot more going on in Sydney than in Adelaide, just a little bit.
The lesson. Oh yeah.